So while some elements of the RNC have kind of sort of worked, they still do not have any sort of coherent attack on Joe Biden. Vice President Mike Pence was the marquee speaker last night, and he went through all the greatest hits of he's a Trojan horse for the socialists and he hates America and all of that. Let's take a listen.
When you consider their agenda, it's clear. Joe Biden would be nothing more than a Trojan horse for the radical left. The choice in this election has never been clearer, and the stakes have never been higher. In this election, it's not so much whether America will be more conservative or more liberal, more Republican or more Democrat. The choice in this election is whether America remains America.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nobody's really ultimately buying that. This is not our opinion. We're looking at the polls.
No, polling says actually that people think that Trump and Pence are more radical
extreme
than Kamala Harris and Biden.
So there you go.
It's kind of funny.
But I kind of loved, this is obviously we've been talking about this. This is far from the first time they've made this case. This is the case that they're making against Joe Biden. And so Bernie Sanders had actually kind of a funny response to all of this rhetoric. If we can throw this shot up on the screen. He sent out an email saying, if you've watched the first 2 nights of the RNC, and I'm sorry if you've probably seen speaker after speaker accuse Joe Biden, the Democratic Party, of being socialists who, if elected, will carry out the agenda of Sanders, AOC, and Ilhan Omar. And then he says, if only that were true, which is what I always say to the Trump camp people when I wish that you were right. I really, truly do. But it's just, I don't know how you can look at John Kasich and Colin Powell.
And Romney staffers.
And John Negroponte, all these people coming together. And not only that, the Biden team has made it clear. They're going after these Biden Republicans. They do not care about the left. There is nothing substantive that has been offered to the left. There is nothing there. So we've heard some stuff from Bernie before of he's got the chance to be the most progressive president since FDR. This particular line lands better with me. It's closer to the truth.
It reminded me of this meme where it was Trump campaign says Biden is a socialist, and it was actual socialists with that side eye being I don't think so. That's what I always say. I'm actually, I interact with these people. I know some of them, and they don't think that. So where is this coming from?
That's the problem. It'd be one thing if people like me were you're out, you're crazy. But regular Americans were oh no, I see.
Well, that's
going far to the left.
Right.
But regular people normie Democrats, normie middle of the road Republicans are not thinking that whatsoever. It's interesting. They've picked up on these 2 lines of Bernie Sanders to use to try to make the case. One of them is the one we highlighted here of him being Biden could be the most progressive president since FDR. And it's just so funny because they use it to be see, here's the proof. Whereas when we look at that, we're come on, Bernie. Everybody knows that is not true.
And Obama, too. That's another one people are pointing to, where Obama's if you look at Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders from a 40,000-foot level, they don't disagree. And they're all look, see, even Obama says he's the same as Bernie. And I'm well, or you could read it as that's a way of Obama trying to win over the Bernie people because they also don't believe it. So everybody is gaslighting everyone here. And it's not effective. It's a very dumb attack in my view. I saw this tweet, I think it was from Ezra Klein. And he was it seems like the Trump campaign was totally prepped to run against Bernie. And then Biden won the nomination. And they're we'll just go with that. We won't reprint any materials. We'll just go with whatever they were going to go with in the first place. And it doesn't land. The only things that are really landing are the unintentional nationalism things that they're doing at the RNC. When they have workers, whenever they have people saying that he's against war, all of the original themes of the 2016 campaign. That is what works against Joe Biden. He's a Trojan horse for globalism, not for socialism.
Yeah, and they need to actually speak to the economic concerns of people right now, which they have utterly failed to do at the RNC. No, and it's funny, the other line that they point to with Bernie is he made this comment of things that we were pushing that were seen as radical are now mainstream. Yes. They're see, he's radical. That means it's proof right there. He's radicalized the party. But if you think about it, the things he's talking about are Medicare for all, healthcare for all, which, is actually mainstream. If you look at the polling, it's overwhelmingly popular, certainly with Democrats, but it's actually in the pandemic very popular across all lines. You think about something like $15 minimum wage. It's kind of even seems crazy now that that was considered wild-eyed back in 2016. Now, I think a $15 minimum wage could probably get voted on the ballot of the reddest state in the country. They'd be like, yes, people deserve a living wage. So these are positions that it's not that the American people, frankly, haven't been there. It's that you weren't allowed to advocate for them. And so Bernie Sanders has moved those things in the mainstream. But that's why I think they did have this playbook all like ready to go for if Sanders won the nomination. I don't even think it would land against him ultimately, because people actually want someone who is going to change the status quo, who is going to focus on and address their economic needs. So I'm not even sure in a Sanders world that this attack would ultimately have landed.
Whether it be effective, I don't know, but it would have at least been true, right?
It would have had at least some veracity to it, yeah.
This is like actually just not true, and that's what drives me crazy about it, which is that it just strays so far away. And they actually are validating what a lot of the people that you would bring on the show and be like, they're going to call us socialists anyway. And I was like, yeah, I mean, probably. I didn't think they would be this brazen about it. They actually did. They're like fulfilling that progressive prophecy from during the campaign.
You're saying that I was right?
Yeah, you were very right. I really didn't think they were this dumb. I mean, I was like, come on, you can't work all the way at the highest level of politics and have all this hundreds of millions of dollars of polling infrastructure and more, and come up with this. Like, that's the best you got, but they're so wedded to their ideology and more. That's what they decided to go with.
They do it every time, with maybe the only exception being the case that they made against Hillary Clinton.
That's right.
Which actually
the only one that
landed, worked. But other than that, this is apparently all that they've got.
All right.
All right, we're rising for you after this.